Welcome to Plus One Forward, the podcast powered by the apocalypse, where we talk about tabletop role-playing games using or inspired by the Apocalypse engine. I'm your MC, Rich, and I'm joined by my guest, Hamish Cameron of Arden's Looteray. Hey, Hamish, welcome to the show.
Hi, Rich. How's it going?
It's great. It's great. So I got to know, Hamish, this whole Apocalypse engine thing, what got you started? What was your first gateway game to PbtA?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I actually can't remember. It's either Apocalypse World itself, or it was the Gamma playtest edition of Dungeon World, and I forget which one came first. Certainly it was, 2011 or so either right after Apocalypse World had come out or just before Dungeon World, officially was published.
So both of them tripped your trigger equally?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially Dungeon World, I think I really got into that because I love fantasy games, but there's a lot of tactical crunch in a lot of fantasy games that I like, but I also like the more narrative style. So
yeah, you ran Dungeon World a few times at Origins, I was noticing. That was your go-to game, wasn't it?
I ran Dungeon World 3 times and the Sprawl 3 times, which is, for me, a far more even balance. The past few years when I go to big cons like this, it's people that I don't play with regularly, and they've never played the Sprawl, so they always want to play the Sprawl. And then I usually cross it off the list, and for the last session I'm running and be like, no, I need to play Dungeon World. I need to exercise that part of my brain.
Let's talk a little bit more about that over here when we go to read a Sitch. Read a Sitch. I understand you might have a little bit of a rant when we talk about the idea of getting XP when you highlight stats versus XP for failure. And all your experience with Dungeon World, I assume that you love XP for failure, right?
No, I don't. As I said, when I started Dungeon World, it was in that Gamma edition, and back then they used XP for stats, and so I was into that, and it was what worked in Apocalypse World. And when they changed around the system, I was like, no, this is ridiculous. This is encouraging people to fail. Why would I just not roll with my bad things all the time? Because I am a total XP whore. I will do things if the system will reward me. I want that feedback. I want to do something and I want to get rewarded and I want to level up in the session. So when Dungeon World changed all that around, I was, and I made and sort of published an alternate XP system in the Living Dungeon World Gauntlet put up, where we had an entirely different system again. But XP is one of those really hard things in an Apocalypse World game, and it's one of the first things I often look at, actually, because it tells you a lot about what they expect you to be doing and how they expect you to act and how you expect to be rewarded. And so in Apocalypse World, where you're marking stats, it's saying this is a game that it matters how you do something. And in Dungeon World, where it's failure, it's what I sort of came to work out is this is a game about learning from your mistakes and getting better through time. It's sort of exploration of failure, I guess, or exploration of the world that sort of works with. And somebody brought up an interesting point the other day that it has a kind of leveling effect, that as you level up towards Dungeon World's maximum 10 levels, you get XP less and less because you fail less and less. And so there's a sort of curve there, which is quite nice for extending the playability, and I hadn't really considered that. The Sprawl uses an entirely different system, again, which is derived from keys in Shadow of Yesterday.
Ooh, as a Lady Blackbird aficionado, not like hearing that, man.
Yeah, I mean, you can see why I might go there when I talk about wanting to push buttons and get XP immediately and then level up in the session. Lady Blackbird is the perfect XP system as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Okay, well, you've sold me. Evidently, the key is the way to go. You get juicy bits from highlighting stats, and you also get activity, so that's pretty fantastic. We got to explore that in a little bit. Actually, why don't we go ahead and open our brain? You can tell me a little bit more about the Sprawl. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Open your brain. All right, Hamish, so you've got the Sprawl thing going on. So what's the elevator pitch for the Sprawl?
The Sprawl is a game of mission-based cyberpunk action in a dark and gritty neon future. So you're all badasses who are disposable assets of corporations, and you are doing those things that the corporations can't do or can't be seen to do, and you're operating in that sort of sticky interface between corporations that are these massive monolithic things that could crush you any moment. You don't want to poke them, and the game is about poking them.
Okay, so here's the critical question for me, selfishly, Hamish. Can I play an orc?
Not yet. I mean, you could just reskin it. But we are working on a Seattle 2050 setting that's called Touched. It's not actually set in Seattle, and it doesn't actually bear that much resemblance to Shadowrun, but you can play all of those meta-human type characters in that. But you could easily play it as is, just reskinning it with that. It would be no problem.
It seems like Gibson is a really big influence for you here. Are there any other influences besides Gibson that made a big impact to the Sprawl?
Certainly, yeah, Gibson. It came out of my desire to play games like Shadowrun, but play them in a timely manner, because I want to be able to play a game, a complete, satisfying feeling mission in a 2 to 4 hour con slot or a 2 to 4 hour evening, because I am an adult who has a job, and I can't spend all day playing an awesome combat scene. I want to get it over quickly and satisfyingly. So I made the game that I wanted to play. But it definitely comes out of having a ton of fun playing Shadowrun when I was in high school and later as well, and Cyberpunk a little bit, but mostly Shadowrun. But then I realized that the thing that I really liked about Shadowrun was not actually the orcs and the magic and the thing that people usually associate with Shadowrun, but it was all of that corporate stuff. That's the same stuff that's in Cyberpunk 2020, and it's the same stuff that's in Gibson and Sterling and all of those other classic Cyberpunk authors of the 80s and a few into the 90s, and even a couple from who are still writing in that kind of way as well.
How is the tech level for this game? Are you actually jacking into a Matrix? Are you walking around with a cyber deck? Or is it a lot more like we shot forward a few years from the technology we have now?
I leave that open in the game. In the game, that's open. And that's one of the questions that the table is supposed to decide in the first session. Like, what are we doing here? Are we finding phone boxes in dark alleyways and reenacting that scene on the cover of Shadowrun? Or are we sort of cruising past places with our Wi-Fi networks, hacking into all sorts of things that people nowadays who know about computers, unlike Gibson, are doing? All right. And so, in a way, that doesn't matter for the rules. It matters, obviously, for the setting, and that's something that people should absolutely talk about at the start, but the setting is a little bit agnostic on the specifics of the tech.
That's clever. I like that. That's really smart. That way you can have it in both ways. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of mechanics, what are the mechanics that are different in the Sprawl versus Apocalypse World?
Well, obviously, a lot of the moves are different in specific ways, as you'd find with any Apocalypse World hack. The main thing that I would say that the Sprawl brings to the family of Powered by the Apocalypse games is the explicit mission structure. So at the start of every mission, you have the meeting with Mr. Smith, Mr. Johnson, whatever his name is, the anonymous corporate employee, and he gives you the job, and you have a little negotiating scene, but instead of doing the negotiating scene where you argue about the price and then maybe don't take the job, but you're always going to take the job because you want to do the mission, you just roll a move and you take the job, and then the move tells you what you get. Did you get extra information? Did you get extra gear? Did you uncover some information about your employer? Right, so you do that, and then you go straight into what's called the legwork phase, where you gather information and make your plan, and then you go into the action phase where you actually do the mission, and then you go to another move at the end called getting paid. And the getting paid move is where you find out whether you've been set up or not. So all of that is sort of left open, and in the end, you get to choose. Like, if you roll well enough, it's the classic Apocalypse World thing. I rolled a 7 to 9, so I have to pick one of these bad things to happen. Which bad thing do I want to happen? Do I want to get paid, or do I want this to be a setup? Like, that sort of choice. And in the mission, in the legwork phase and the action phase, there are these clocks which advance, visible to the players. And this is somewhat similar to Blades in the Dark, if anyone's familiar with that, where you actually get to see a clock and it counts down, and if the clock fills up, then something bad happens. If the clock fills up in the legwork phase, then the corporation that you're making the run against knows absolutely everything about your plan, so they'll predict your every move. If the mission clock fills up, then they deploy overwhelming force, and you have to describe how you get out. If the mission goes belly up, it doesn't turn into a giant, endless running combat scene with the MC throwing in more and more bad guys. It just stops, and then everybody gives a quick narration about how they got away or how they didn't get away, and there are various implications for that. So that kind of structure is the thing that the Sprawl brings into the Apocalypse World family, I think. That's the kind of different mechanic, I would say.
In Apocalypse World, there are definitely moves for action. There are moves for interaction. Does the Sprawl have social-related maneuvers?
Yep, they are all structured around a system where you are finding information to do a thing, and then the ways that you might talk to people while you're doing a thing. So it's not so set up to do PvP style, everybody is kind of doing their own thing in a nebulous open world situation. It is a very structured system, and so in that way it models games like Shadowrun or Cyberpunk, or the Cyberpunk RPG genre, rather than the Cyberpunk literary genre, which is far more about individuals who have their own problems and are pushing against each other. And people sometimes ask me, what would you use to play that kind of game? And my answer is usually Apocalypse World. Just reskin it, right? Because that's perfect. That has that kind of chaotic, who's in charge, nobody knows, the power, the person who's strongest is in charge, people butting heads against each other. You can just reskin that for the shadow-filled streets below the corporate archaeologies, and that works fine.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so let's circle back to the Sprawl. What's your favorite move and why?
It's that combination of the get the job and the get paid moves. Those are my two favorite moves, particularly get paid, and particularly when I run it at a convention and the players haven't played it before, and so they don't know what the results are until or maybe they've been looking at the sheet, whatever, and then they look at it and they look at the move sheet and says, oh, the job is not a setup. Oh, I want to choose that one. Oh, I get paid in full. Oh, wait, I want to choose that one. We know something about, there's no third parties are involved. These are all bad. And then they have to make that hard decision, because that's one of the things I really love about the Powered by the Apocalypse system, is that on those 7 to 9s, the players get to choose how they're screwed.
That is cool, because it got to the point in Shadowrun where it doesn't matter. Mr. Johnson's either not going to pay you or you're going to get hosed by somebody else. It's nice that it's in the player's hand. I really like that.
Yeah, because sometimes you want the corporate double cross, and sometimes you don't. And sometimes your mission goes really well. You've only been playing for an hour and a half, and maybe you've done the job. And you're like, oh, well, I guess let's make it a setup so we can have a nice little bit of action or something. Like, it gives a lot of extra narrative control into the hands of the players, and I love that.
Okay, you got me all excited about this, Hamish. I want to get this to the table. You want to act under fire and do this thing?
Yeah, let's do it.
It is time to act under fire.
Listen up, +1. Here's the plan. It's a simple in-and-out job.
Cortez pulls up a wireframe holomap of the Helitex bioresearch facility.
At 0300 hours, smoke will infiltrate the loading area under the cryotanker.
Cortez traces her finger through the model.
+1 will kill the cameras in the loading dock long enough for Smoke to get into the office. Smoke will move to here.
She stabs a finger.
And unlock this service entrance for his escape, or in case Kennedy needs to extract him. +1 will loop the cameras and alarm protocols to keep that exit clear. Smoke sneaks down to the organ vat lab, grabs the samples and the files, then bugs out. +1 needs to keep the system's security calm so the guards stay calm. Kennedy and I will be in the van in case something goes wrong. Got it? Good. Timing is everything, people. Stay sharp.
It's a simple job and a solid plan. I feel good. All right, I hold 1 to cancel an alarm during the mission. It's 02:57 hours, and the cryotanker is rolling through the main gate and towards the loading dock. The Helitex Matrix system looks like a honeycomb, like a giant bee hive matrix system. It's really complex, and what's scary about it is that it's a mesh. I don't know where the central figure is. It says here that I'm going to roll plus mind. I've got a +1 in mind, so here we go. I rolled an 8 with a +1. That is a 9. On a 10+, my timing was perfect, and I was in and Smoke was in. Unfortunately, 7 to 9. Sloppy. Both in, but one of us is alerted security. Choose +1 trace against me or advance the mission clock. I think I'll choose +1 trace. Yeah.
+1 trace. Yeah, it looks like this giant honeycomb, and you see the bees like flying in and out as the data stream of input and output to the system comes flying in. You merge in with the bees, but it's a little confusing because of this really complex situation, right? All of this data flying around, so it takes you a little bit longer to get in, and you alert a larger bee, which starts to follow you around as the system has a trace on you. So you're inside, and you look through the cameras that you just cut off, and you see that Smoke has rolled out from underneath the cryotanker and has stealthily moved up against the edge of the ramp and has moved into the office and out of your view. What are you going to do now?
Okay, so smoke's moved out of my view. I'm in, but I feel like I've got a trace on me.
Yeah, there's this little bee following you. You have 1 trace against you right now. Your deck has 2 stealth. If you get 3 trace against you, they will know your physical location.
Okay. Based on my mission, what I need to do is unlock the service entrance for his escape, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to work on that.
Okay. So you look around for the server node that controls the building doors, and it takes you a little while to find it, but you have plenty of time because it's quicker for you to get to this different server node than it is for him to get through the building. So you get there before him, and you're in a building services node. So in order to unlock the doors, you need to roll manipulate systems, which is with synth.
It turns out that my synth is a +1.
Thematic.
Wow, I rolled another 8. That's a 9.
9. So on a 9 on manipulate systems, you get 1 hold over the system. So that hold will let you open the door, unlock the door, but it won't let you do anything else.
Am I in communication with Smoke?
Yeah.
Smoke, open sesame. You can head in. I'll unlock the door.
Roger that, +1. You see him come by the door, check it, look outside a little bit, everything's calm, and he moves off and starts heading deeper into the facility looking for the organ vat lab. Dodging around cameras as he goes. And he's a pretty good infiltrator, so he's managing to avoid most of the guards. But those cameras are tricky. There's a lot of cameras in here. How are you going to keep the cameras off him?
I'd like to see if I can throw in some interference, maybe loop them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So you find you go to the node that controls the cameras, the internal building security systems, and it's the same thing. Roll manipulate systems again as you get your fingers deep into the code. Start pushing those bees around.
Here we go. Wow. Another 8, but this one's a 3 and 5 instead of a 5 and 3, so I know it's random. That's a 9.
So same deal. You get that 1 hold, and that's enough to keep the cameras off him because he's good. There's a couple of close calls, like you see him come up to a corner and duck back because there's a couple of guards, and you only just managed to flick off a different camera. If he gets any more close calls, then he'll be spotted. Is there anything else you want to do while you're in here? By the way, you need a new car or anything? Go looking for some pay data? I mean, he's so good. He's probably got this covered, right?
I am a little bored, honestly. I mean, +1's here for the team, but +1's here to make money. So I think I'm gonna see if I can split off, multitask a little bit, see if they snoop around and find anything worth having.
Yeah, because you're good enough to multitask. So you go off looking for a data server, looking for some sweet pay data, and you find one. So roll manipulate systems again to access the database here.
Okay, here we go. I'm pushing my luck here. Let's see how this goes. Oh, I called it.
That's fantastic. Okay, so yeah, you find a database and you start flicking through files. The bees are flying past them. You're flicking them out of one honeycomb and into the next honeycomb, and sort of scanning their wings to see if there's anything valuable on them. You see something that looks pretty good, and you're sort of reaching in to grab it when a shadow falls over you from behind. Do you want to grab it?
Yeah, I think I should. I can't just let it. I know I've got that trace. What if it's that bee again? I'm going to grab it.
You grabbing the data?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, so you grab it, and you feel like this sting go into you from behind, from the shadow that fell over you. It arcs through you, and you almost feel a sympathetic convulsion, but it's not black eye, so it hasn't actually hurt you. It doesn't knock off a point of hardening from your cyber deck. So if you get hit again, your deck is actually going to start to take like physical damage. It's gonna actually be frying your circuitry. You spin around, and there's this even bigger bee. You thought the other bee was pretty big. This one is enormous, and it has instead of eyes, it just has these big satellite dishes that are kind of looking and scanning towards you, and it has this big stinger, it pulls back to thrust its stinger into you. And right at that moment, you get a smoke coming through on your comms. A little help here? What are you gonna do?
Yeah. I'm on my way. I'm going to see if I can basically extract myself from this and zip over to wherever Smoke is. I need to locate him and jump over to him. I know it's a little dangerous, so I got to do it.
Yeah, so the move for that is called Melt Ice, and it says when you attempt to evade, destroy, or disable an activated ice construct, roll plus edge. What's your edge?
It's a +1.
Haha. So roll edge.
Barely.
Just got it. So on a 7+, you do manage to evade it, but the system successfully executes a routine on you before you can disable it. And so, describe to me how +1, this elite hacker, destroys, disables, or evades this giant bee construct.
Queue up a program that mirror images me, and it attacks the mirror image while I just slip through the node and zap away, bee style.
That's perfect. So as you zip away to get back to that camera node to help out Smoke, you don't notice that a couple more bees are following you. Your trace has gone up to +2.
Ooh, one more and I'm caught.
Yeah. So you get back to the cameras and you start looking through. Did you have any hold left over from that?
I don't think I did.
Right? I think you just got one. Yeah, because you rolled 8s all the time. Yeah. So you look through the cameras and you see Smoke is stuck in a broom closet. And there's a couple of guards outside who are having a conversation about something, and you can flick back and forth between the two cameras, and you can see that he is obviously like ducked back in there, and he has the stuff, like he has all the stuff that you came in here for, and is in a bag. But these two guards aren't moving, and the clock is ticking.
Let's see. I'm going to look around and see if is there a loudspeaker or do they have walkie-talkies?
Yeah, they both. Which one would you like? There's definitely an internal PA system, but they have communications on them as well. And that's all connected to the same a secure system here.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in on their secure system and send them to another part of the building.
Nice. Okay, so roll manipulate systems again on their comms.
All right. It's a 9.
Always with the 8, man.
This is a 6 and a 2.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, so you are hacking into their comms and then you are speaking to them to tell them to go to the different part of the building, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't really figured out how these guys talk, so...
The one hold that you get from that lets you successfully hack into their system. So you're in their comms. You have control of their comms now. Because the one, you spent that hold to get in there. You can't really do anything else. You could manipulate systems again to try and get more hold and send them an automated message, or you can just talk to them.
+1's not much of a talker. I'm going for another hold. So
all right, okay. So do manipulate systems again.
Yes.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, +1 isn't a talker, but +1 is a elite hacker. So yeah, you have all the hold you could possibly need there. You got 3. So yeah, you send them a little message. They suddenly get simultaneous beeps on their comms units. You see them look at them. Both look at each other with a slightly concerned look on their face and hurriedly head off to whichever part of the building you send them.
All right, Smoke, you're clear. Let's Didi Mao.
He gives you a thumbs up signal to the camera, slips out the door, and heads for the exit. And I think you're clear. I think he heads to the exit, slips out the back door that you opened for him already, and off into the night.
Man, that was great, Hamish. That's good. I love how we could just like drop in, drop out, and I got all the feel of a really cool Shadowrunny, cyberpunky mission. That's cool.
Yeah, one of the advantages of the Powered by the Apocalypse style of play with the conversation is that it means you can, like, if there was one other person playing Smoke, it would have taken twice as long because there were 2 people, but you don't get those situations where somebody is sitting around for a long time waiting to do their thing, or the decker is in the Matrix and everybody else is going to get coffee or something. Yeah, that conversation lets you like switch back and forth, and this because Powered by the Apocalypse handles split parties really well, and that's essentially what the hacker is.
Hamish, thank you so much for coming on +1 Forward and talking about the Sprawl with me.
No, thanks for having me, Rich. It's been fun.
+1 Forward is a production of the Gauntlet community and Richard Rogers. You can find us on Gauntlet-RPG.com or follow us on Twitter at GauntletRPG. The games mentioned on this show use the Apocalypse engine, which is a creation of Vincent and McGay Baker. The music for +1 Forward is from the Savage Oral Hotbed CD Gomi Daiko. The songs used are Gomi Daiko Metal version and Process. You can find more amazing tunes by Savage Oral Hotbed on their website, SavageOralHotbed.com.